My name is Alexia Sanchez, and I'm currently working for Cypher Learning as the EdTech Director for USA and Canada. I've worked for many years in the education field, working in different areas. I've worked as a teacher for levels K through 12, worked as a department coordinator, instructional designer, and the Students Affairs Director. My passion has always been teaching and the learning processes, but more importantly, continuous improvement, because I do believe that quality education is a key factor in the progress of societies. And I'm sure that the reason why you're here today is that you, as I am, are in a continuous search for efficiently delivering knowledge to your learners. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Today, Adrian is also joining us, who is going to be helping me out with answering your questions as well. And if you're interested in getting to know more about our platform, he will for sure be willing to help you with this. Neo by Cypher Learning is a very robust LMS platform that has a vision of empowering teachers and educators with easy access tools, and brings to you these webinars. So let us start this webinar, in which we will firstly find out what the education of 2030 is and its importance. Then we will discuss ways in which we can start implementing small changes in our classes in preparation for this huge education shift. Please make sure to stay with us until the end, as we will be asking you for your full name to send you a certificate of participation. First, I would like to invite you to think about the purpose of education, or better yet, your purpose as education leaders, teachers, as instructional designers, as school leaders. Is it to ensure the learner's future employability? Is it to help learners succeed in their personal and professional life? Is it to prepare students for their next learning stage? Is it to help students acquire skills that we'll need in the future? Or is it to guide learners in the knowledge acquisition so that they become competent people? Let us take a second and reflect upon the implications of these aims. When we are talking about goals, we frame them in the future. They are all oriented towards the learner's future years. But where are we standing today? How are we working in the present, preparing students for the fourth industrial revolution? So today, what are we looking at? They say that if we understand our past, we can understand our present. And if we understand our present, we can understand the needs of the future. Very briefly, I want to tell you about the purpose of education and how the education began. People in the past created education systems, and the role of teachers originated because those were the only ways to access knowledge. As well, it was thought about mass education for soldiers so they could learn ways to become more effective and have a better chance to survive. Later on, with the Industrial Revolution, education was sought for giving people a better chance to develop and have a better life. And today, we talk about this close integration with technology, but in the background, we are still working on a standardized mass-oriented education that hasn't yet learned how to be optimized and how to really utilize this technology for our learners. And why do I say this? Because education systems are still following in standardized curricula, and education authorities are still imposing them. We're talking about narrowly defined scope and sequences that teachers cannot go further from those. We're talking about theoretical knowledge with limited response modes. Learners cannot really develop all of their creativity because they have to stick to certain types of questions inside the classes. We are not having enough time to teach the social emotional skills nor personalized learning. I cannot figure out all of these tasks in just one day for all those learners. We're talking about that we still regard and really respect the discipline. I mean, how many teachers are out there grading discipline? And we are also oriented into the grades and time. I mean, we're still teaching students how to pass and how to get better grades in their assessments. We are also oriented into learners getting timed assessments. So what is the class of 2030 and why is it important? I mean, the problem right now that we have in the education is that with all of these characteristics that I was telling you about, is that we are driving learners into mechanistic learning, although we do not live in a non-shifting world. There is this person called Chip Brooks who was explaining, when learning activities are divorced from ordinary experience, fragmented into short blocks of time and framed within narrowly defined disciplines, the learner is unlikely to engage, remember, or apply the knowledge supposedly conveyed. Teaching becomes a chore, and schooling becomes irrelevant to the actual life of the students, much less to the needs of the larger society. It is difficult in that situation to foster the development of critical, socially engaged intelligence, one that might in turn be able to transform schools and society they reflect. I mean, things are evolving and are changing really fast. And this speed of change requires outcomes in education ASAP. So, attending to the needs of these outcomes, Microsoft Education furtherly introduced the concept of the class of 2030 and life-ready learning in 2018. The research project with McKinsey and Company presented the future needs of learners in their learning journey. Microsoft explains how future education will be profoundly social, personalized, and supported by teachers and technology. I mean, high-level cognitive skills in collaboration, in problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity areas will be the most important. In order to do this shift, Microsoft highlights as well the importance of supporting our work in technologies. As well, the OECD has been working on this, on the education of 2030. So this year, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development released its OECD Future Education and Skills 2030 project, which identifies common policies, issues, and it is working on a curriculum redesign and developing a conceptual framework for learning 2030. So as you can see, we have already have a two-phase project by the OECD. So the class of 2030 will be composed of those children who enter school in 2018 and in this year, who will be young adults by 2030. So why is then so important the education in 10 years? What can we expect from the future? Let us take a look at how the future will look like. We are talking about a world that by 2030, automation will have replaced 50% of the existing jobs in USA. Many millions of jobs for lower education grades will be lost to automation. And approximately 65% of children entering primary school today will ultimately end up working in completely new jobs that don't exist yet. On the good side, many new jobs will arise because new technologies will develop them, such as, for example, AI generating 2.3 million jobs for the next year. So for 2020, we will have 2.3 million new jobs just in AI field. This is according to Gartner. Some example of these new traits that we are looking at is having a drone traffic manager. We're talking about autonomous transportation specialist, human technology specialist, 3D food printer chef, augmented reality architect, privacy guardians, or genetic modification designer and engineers. So for all of these future jobs, we require a new set of skills and competencies. What are these new skills that today's learners will need to reshape 2030? Let's take a look at that. So here are the top 10 skills and abilities and knowledge associated with rising occupations. In United States, we are looking at learning strategies, social perceptiveness, education and training, and in United Kingdom, we're taking a look at learning strategies as well, having a fluency of ideas, active learning. So the whole idea, as you can see, is that learners will have those skills that cannot be pushed aside by those automation and robots. So the idea is that we're talking about learners working together, people working together to create and innovate new ideas. Pearson led a study about evolution of education for life and work this March, which is the reason why we're looking at these top skills. So all these skills will lead to world building through innovation and creativity. We're talking about learners to contribute in the world building. We're talking about contribution, and contribution, it is the most important side. That is the most important thing about 2030, about the future. It is that we are taking a look at societies collaborating, connecting really with information, and creating new ideas. So what can we do to start preparing for this major shift? What can we do, us as teachers, as instructional designers, school leaders, all of those people that are working in education? What can we do? So let us take a look at the school's role. So what is going to happen? What are the major changes in this? So in the school's role, we can take a look at schools right now, but in the future, by 2030, we're taking a look at collective hubs. Hubs where people can work together, where teachers can share all of their knowledge. We're talking about having right now a hierarchical structure where we have the school principal, we have the principals, we have the teachers, then we have the TAs, but then we will have a collective leadership. Everyone will be a leader. We won't be growing in a vertical structure, but we will be growing together. Learners, instead of choosing a learning plan, or schools deciding which learning plan will follow all of the learners, the schools will have a democratized teaching where the teachers can really put themselves out there and try to be more as a mentor. Now let us take a look at the classrooms. We're talking about right now we have teacher-centered classrooms. But then by 2030, in the future, we will have more of a classroom focused on students. We will have what we call the student centricity. Instead of following curricula, we will have democratized learning. Learners will and can follow whatever they want to learn. The teacher's role will be a major shift because teachers won't be teachers anymore. They will be teacherpreneurs. And what is the main change? What is this new terminology? We're talking about leaders. We're talking about mentors. So the teachers, instead of sticking to the scope, what they will become is that they will become into knowledge facilitators. The idea is that they will follow and explore all that potential of the learners. They will push what the learners want to learn. So instead of becoming the only source of knowledge, how they have been, what they will do is that they will guide learners through what they want to learn. Instead of following the imposed curricula, they will work on a collective leadership. I mean, we can talk about teachers working aside by teachers and discussing ways in how they can follow, and they can follow this learning journey of the students. So instructional designers will also have a new role, because right now what they are doing and what we are doing is that we are designing the content. We are designing, we're focused on how we can make it more interactive. But in the future, we will have to give more focus, we'll have to give more importance to the context. The context is very important, as it will allow the learners to engage more into the classes. We will again talk about the curricula, and instead of curricula, we will have democratized learning, because we have to shift from a mechanistic learning to give more context. I mean, we do not live in a non-shifting world, so everything is changing, and we have to become more flexible, and we have to adapt to this. And we are as well talking about a seamless learning. So we're thinking about being aligned to the learners' interests, into the real life situations, something that that it is really relevant to the learners right now. So we're talking about a connectivity to learn. According to Newton, we could probably be entering into a second wave of e-learning. I mean, we do have already these tools. We do have authoring tools. We do have LMSs. We have many other companies that are working aside to develop those tools and features needed. But we now need to put all of this inside our classes and classrooms, really integrate them and cooperate as teachers with all of these tools, so that teachers will have enough time to concentrate into their mentoring new roles. And we can all benefit from connections and networks. So what will be the role of technology? Why is this important? Because it will complement, it will allow the teachers have enough time to focus on social emotional skills that learners will need in the future. Because learners will work in a new different environment of work. I mean, we're talking that we don't have to work in the same space. We can work remotely. We can work online right now. So what we need is to make communications more efficiently between co-workers. We need to optimize the time spent in certain activities. And we can enhance learning through different experiences. Now we have virtual reality, we have AI, we have gamification. And as well, we need to actually start using the collaboration tools efficiently. So what can we do? Now that we have a panorama, a scenario of the future, what can we do, us as educators, as designers? What can we do? Well, for educators, there are many things that you can do, but you can start with digital literacy. I mean, there are many free features, such as, for example, Neo LMS, that you can start working on, and you can see what all of those tools can potentialize your work. We can as well work on rapport. We need to work on creating a strong bonds with our learners, because that is the place where all of these social emotional skills will come from. We need to have a more detailed and constant feedback. I mean, in this study by Microsoft, they were telling the learners that they do have feedback, that they do get feedback, but what the learners were reporting is that they actually don't really feel that they have enough feedback. So the learners want to know, what are they doing wrong, and how can they improve what they are already doing? We can already do this. We can start giving them constant feedback, not only just like, good job. We can give them a little bit of feedback. Probably by Friday, you can send a note on what they did really good and what they can improve or what they can work on. As well, we need to give more value to the ideas of learners. I mean, if learners are going to be the creators of the future, we need to give them more importance to what they want to contribute with. So in the classroom, it is important for us not to limit their ideas. We have to motivate them, and we have to believe in them firstly, so that we can push them forward. So for schools, what we can start doing is to implement and facilitate technology tools to the teachers, to the instructional designers, to learners. We're not talking about investing a lot of money. There are many tools that are free and that they can start learning about. We can deliver training on teaching social emotional skills. Some books already have the section of social emotional skills, but because teachers don't feel really safe or confident in teaching this, they try, or probably they can just skip those skills. So they firstly need to feel confident on themselves on how they can teach social emotional skills. We can as well allow the continuous flows of ideas and information. So for example, if a teacher is having a difficult case or a specific case with a student or their families, probably what the school can do is share this case with all of the other teachers and how they solve this, as well with instructional designers. For example, if you have a specific use case, you can share it with your co-workers, and you can bring all of those ideas together. You can as well do the effective integration with LMSs, so it is easy for the learners and for the teachers. For instructional designers, it is really important as well to implement gamification. Gamification allows learners to practice the skills and their knowledge, their previous knowledge, so that they can get into a mastery of those skills. You can as well contextualize content, because that is what 2030 is about. We need to make it relevant for learners. And for the assessments, we need to give more value into learners' ideas. So we can start implementing more essays, more type of open questions, or for example, use cases that they have to solve. We can as well do job-specific competence-based learning into a learning path. As well, we can create dynamic content, and we cannot equalize the learner's needs. So deep learning can be acquired through dynamic connections. And this can be created by the need of the contribution. So people right now require, and the learners require, to contribute. So if they have all these needs to contribute, and we really need to get into a deep learning, what we have to do is, as teachers, instead of asking the questions of how they can get to do this and to this, what they have to do is that you have to ask the right questions. So let me show you now some actions that you can start utilizing right now. Up to here, do you have any questions that you would like to share with me? If so, please feel free to share them in our text chat. I will now go ahead and share with you the screen. This is Neo. This is an LMS that we are working on. It is a really robust platform that brings all of these features together in just one LMS. Okay, so over here, what we can do, and we can start implementing in your LMSs or in your classrooms, are some specific things. So the first one that we're talking about for education in 2030 is about personalizing. So the idea of personalizing means that we have to really try to trigger actions according to how well the learner has done in that assessment or in that class. So for example, let's talk about score rules. Over here, you as a teacher, what you can do in paper and in class is check out the grades or percentages that the learners are getting. For example, if you see that the learner is getting a C, probably what you can do is that you can talk with parents and teachers. But if you're working right now in an LMS, what you can do is trigger some actions. For example, let's say that if a learner got less than a 40%, probably what we can do is that we can add them into a mentoring or tutoring group. So for example, we can go ahead and select into which group we can enroll him into. Or for example, we can as well give rewards, because rewards are really important for learners as they are motivated. So we also have, as you already know, we have below the level learners, we have at the level learners, and above the level learners. So probably for this above the level learners, we can also trigger some actions, or in the case of the classic classrooms, what you can do is give them rewards, or for example, try to motivate them with allowing them to skip one homework, for example, because they don't need the same practice as those learners who are below the level. So for example, if a learner acquires or is showing a good work, probably is getting an 80% or above, what we can do is that probably what we can do is hide an assignment for those learners because they do not need that practice. Or as well, what we can do is that we can award points if you're utilizing the gamification option. Or probably give them another lesson to show them another. For example, if you're talking about biology, probably if they are really interested into that, probably we show them more information about sharks, for example. So this is really important, as the score rules that will trigger different actions are things that we cannot only do this in LMS, but we also can do in our classes and into our classrooms. Another feature that we have, and it is really engaging for learners, are the games. In Neo LMS, we have games as the site-wide level, and we have at the course level games. As well, we have into the path. So for example, you can also do gamification in your classes if you're not utilizing currently an LMS, such as giving them a sticker every day they are doing really well, or they are doing all of their homeworks. Over here in our LMS, when adding a game, you can also utilize a topic that it is engaging for learners. For example, Game of Thrones, a big thing. You can switch that into a game of the schools, for example, and you can do it into the different levels and for all the learners. So over here, we have the option of adding different levels. And this gamification option is really easy to implement in our Neo LMS feature. So for example, let's do this. I can do by houses, house of sciences. Or we can give a name, for example, Master of Science. So this level will be reached when they get 6,000 points. You can add the different number of points. If you don't want to do it this high, you can as well, for example, put 6 points or 600 points. I'm going to add another one. Science Wizard. And it can be reached when they have 3,000 points. Finally, I'm going to add a beginner's level. So science beginner. This level will be reached when they get 1,000 points. Okay, so once we have already added the levels, every game needs the actions that will be triggered once they get or they reach to that level. So, for example, what we can do is this: we can add them into groups. Groups are really important because, as we were talking about and already discussing this previously, you are adding a collaboration area, a collaboration space where learners can share their ideas. Or you can enroll them into a path. For example, if you want to add a different class, or you want to share different knowledges, or probably if they're doing really well in math, you can add them into a different class for that. Or you can award them a badge as well. So for all of this, you can add different actions. Over here, we have the badges that we have. And over here, we have the leaderboard settings. So let's take a look at the leaderboard settings. We want it to be enabled so that they can see. If you're working in your classroom, you can as well do a leaderboard setting in the way that learners can see their progress, their daily progress, probably with the stickers or with an image. You can add whatever you want. Over here, let us add 10 users for this game. Now, let me show you how we can add a badge, and we can personalize this badge in our platform. So we can probably do a badge for Science Wizard. As you can see, all of this information, all of these titles, they are really focused into the learner's interest. We're going to select the subject. And we're going to leave it available for all the learners inside our school. We can then now select the shape of this badge. We can select the borders as well as the image and the text for the banner. And finally, the colors. We can change the colors for this one. Now we have a badge, a custom badge to our game, that it is going to be available to our game. Let me go back into our game so you can see how we can add it. So for the level of Science Wizard, what we're going to do is that we are going to award a badge for that game. Science Wizard. Here it is. We're going to save it. So now the learner can acquire those badges. Up to here, do you have any questions? Please feel free to text any message or any of your questions. So now inside the classes, what we can do is that we can award any type of or amount of points when they have finalized an assessment. So for example, if they have a document or they have an essay, what we can do is that once they have completed this, we can award the badge, or we can award specific points. This way, learners will be really amazed when they have finished or completed each of their assignments. Finally, another thing that I wanted to show you is this. Inside our classes, what we have as well are the mastery. Because we're talking about the class of 2030, we're discussing about the new skills that these learners require. So we can set different competencies over here. So for example, not only about the standards in USA or in your country, we can as well add new competencies. For example, for that job that we were talking about, the 3D printing chef, for example, they will need space orientation, or probably they will need the creativity, for example. We can add over here a competency. So this way, we're not only evaluating all of these sets of competencies that have been imposed by either your school or your education authority, but as well, you can start adding what those skills that you believe that will work for real life for learners. Visual arts. You can select over here a country, and we can make it available for all the users inside the school. So now we have all of these set of competencies and standards from the school, but as well, we already have the creativity over here. So now we can add some proficiencies inside here. We can add them inside. Let's utilize just one. Let's add one code. I'm going to copy paste this, and we're going to save it. So now we can see over here if any of these classes have these competencies assigned into, and which assignments are evaluating these competencies. Let me go back into that class so that we can assign a competency to this specific assignment. Over here, I look for creativity, and then I click on save. Okay, so now we have the competency evaluating this task. Let me go back into our mastery so that we can see the competencies for creativity and how it has been already assigned into this assignment as well for this class. Up to here, do you have any questions? I'm going to share now with you one last slide from the PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. And I would like you to now reflect upon what we've already discussed about the role of technology. I mean, technology can really support and aid us as teachers, as instructional designers. We need the help. We need to optimize those tasks that we daily work upon. So I really want to invite you to start adding all of these technology tools that you have available for you into your classes, to integrate them. Because as we were already talking about, technology will already take out a lot of jobs in the future. So teachers are really important because teachers will do the emotional and human role in the classes. But what teachers can do, instructional designers, is help themselves from utilizing these technologies to optimize their time. Allow all of these LMSs, foreign tools, do the hard job, do the grading part, do the mastery part, do the gamification, so that you can really focus on your learners, so that you can focus on what they really want to learn about, on how to develop all of their skills so that they can create and focus on the change for the future. That is my invitation, and as well, I would like to invite you to utilize our new LMS platform. We will share with you the link right now in the chat section. And I will share with you as well, if you are interested, with my slides so that you can reutilize them. It has been a really pleasure having you here. And now I'm going to pass to the chat and ask you for your information for you so that I can send you a participation certificate. Thank you very much.